And we're going to hear next from Mr. Eyung Lim, the Deputy Director of Government Digital Services of Singapore GovTech, to talk about how Singapore's GovTech continues to leverage on user centricity to engage agency partners to enhance the public service experience.
Testing, testing. Hello, good morning, designer community. I feel very young, right? It sounds very hard when I mentioned that I came from government, you know. But today, I'm truly excited. I want to share a little bit our very humble opinion, humble experience, right? How we have crafted the government digital services, and along the line, what are the learning points and stuff like that. So on the other hand, I mentioned I feel very young because I was previously a poly lecturer, right? I was teaching, you know, hardcore, pure IT programming. Then when I joined GovTech, right, I sort of switched lane and I started to look at, you know, citizen experience and those kind of things. So today, I position it as just a humble sharing of what we have done so far, and I hope you can gain something out of this sharing. So the story begins in year 2012, right? 2012 or 2013, right? So I have some friends in IRAS. So for the sake of everyone, so IRAS is the Singapore Tax Collection Agency, right? So IRAS came to me and threw me this question. Eyung, you know how in Singapore paying tax, typically people not very happy leh. You know when Singaporean paying tax, right, at that point of time, right, overall, the satisfaction rate, because we do conduct a citizen satisfaction survey at the end of the tax-paying exercise. So I say, typically Singaporeans only have a 30% of satisfaction after they pay the tax. So I say, of course lah, you ask them to pay the tax, complete the transaction, then after that you make them, you know, take that survey. So then I say, hey friend, so what is the problem statement you are trying to solve here, right? So they told us that, okay, Eyung, very simple, right? We want Singaporean can't wait to pay us tax. Okay, anyway, there's a half joke inside, all right? So anyway, the problem statement here is about how do we make the whole tax-paying experience more seamless, and then at least to make the experience more satisfactory for citizens. So that was the point of time that we set up a humble team to look at that very use case. I think at that point of time, we only have about 2 to 3 designers, so we take up the case. So there was also the time that we tried to bring in all this kind of very good designer practice, right, into the government, right? We have a very humble setup of, like, you know, a one-way mirror, of, you know, eye tracker devices, right? We start to do, okay, I say very humble setup, but to the government perspective is actually a very good, it's a very significant milestone. So what we do is that we start to do a lot of these, like, evidence-based kind of design. We start to introduce a lot of testing into the design phase and not the implementation phase. So for information, basically my team in charge of both design as well as the development, right? So in the past, under the very waterfall kind of time, right, what we talk about is that, you know, we just list down all the spec, we just get someone to do the implementation. When the thing come out, wow, this is exactly not what I want. And when they meet the citizen, again, it gives you another big scare of, right, no, this is totally a different story, even though word by word, I understand everything in the specification, right? So what we have done is that we get a designer to put in a lot of design, right, in a JPEG format, and then we try to stitch them together into a prototype form. Then we try to recruit some real citizens, right, into our eye tracking lab. And then after that, we give them all the use cases. Imagine you are the commercial taxpayer. Imagine you are in fact, they are the citizen, they are the private taxpayer, right? Individual taxpayer. And then after that, they go through all the use cases. And then from there, we measure the task time and, you know, the usual UX style. So that's the time that we start to pick up a lot of good lessons on this is the right way to do things. And from that point onwards, we also introduced to other part of the government. And now this is becoming a de facto way of how a government service is delivered, in case you're wondering. So I'm happy to say, right, I failed in a way that to make Singaporean 100% of them happy to pay tax. Can't wait, keep on calling, can I pay the next tax? No, I didn't make that happen. But at least the satisfaction rate after the tax paying, right, improved from 30+% to 80+%. At least Singaporeans recognize, right, that is the good way of how services should be delivered. And not to say, the other important point is also about this, IRAS is a very forward-looking in terms of, there's always this saying that the best experience is you don't even need to go through that transaction. Everything is automated. My apology, it's behind the scene. So that gives us a very humble starting point for our UX journey. Then we try to be a little bit more ambitious, right? Because we have some little success to tell, so we thought this is the right way to go. Then we start to look into more, how do we use data to drive design decision? Now, I'm not sure about you, but, okay, by the way, I'm an elder shoe holder, right? Okay. I just purposely, because of this conference, I cut my hair and dye. I'm an elder shoe holder. So at my time, right, design and data are two very different things, right? One is very hard, one is very engineering. And then the other one is design, it's supposed to be artistic and, during my time, right, when I was younger. So, then we have this exploration with reach. So, there's this NDR event, right, National Day Rally, PM Lee, go on stage. And in fact, in case you don't know, a lot of citizens actually, they listen to this NDR event, right, through the webcast. The web browser, they click on it, and then they watch it live, right? So there is a very huge audience there. So we want to know, like, hey, we thought that is a very good natural touch point with the citizens to know that what are the things they like, what are the things they don't like, what are the things can drive their behavior, and stuff like that. We thought that is a very good platform to do that. So we do some multivariate testing since year 2012. So what we do is that, to you might be just a day in, day out thing, but to the government to do it at national level, right, that is, wow, that's quite a big thing at that point of time. So we set up 3 different designs, right? As you can see, right, one is probably more traditional, but at the same time, there are some family element there. One is, I remember we asked for permission, PM Lee, can we use you as the salesman for this web portal, right? And the third one is probably more futuristic, I don't look at the screen, I look up there, those kind of things. So we just put in many things, and we try out, right? So at any point of time, right, when citizens enter in the same URL, they'll be routed to only one of the 3 designs. But for the citizen themselves, unless they clear their cache or use a different device, if not, they will always be brought back to the same design. So from the citizen perspective, they don't know. They just thought that this is the design, right? So after we ran through the trial, I think we had about a few tens of thousands of visitors during the period of the trial, right? Then we try to find out, like, which is a good. And interesting, okay, this is just, some interesting point to note. We find that in terms of some of the government initiative, right, by using some of the color that can represent Singapore more, by using some of the character that can represent Singapore more, it does drive up some of the engagement rate, right? We even go in deep dive to try some of the implementation. So for example, when we talk about call to action, designer always told me that, button is a better call to action because of this, because of that, right? But I say, no, I want to do real experiment. So we really put in exactly the same thing, but one is a button, but one is a link, right? Exactly the same word, just that one is a button, one is a link. Once you click on it, a new thing pop up, exactly doing the same thing. But guess what? We repeated this experiment across different years. And the conclusion is quite consistent, right? Okay, if let's say I'm presenting in other forum, I will try to ask the ground, like, you guess, which one will attract more people? But you guys are designer, right? I think, okay, with all respect, right? Okay, a button is a stronger call to action, right? Okay, Sifu, right? So, and to be to make it even more quantifiable, right, a button, right, roughly the same figure, can attract 127% more click-through rate, right, as a button versus a link, right? So things like this give us a lot of good study of, in the future, when government implement new digital services, how are we supposed to, so considering the importance of the information, whether is it a major call to action, or whether is it just for your information, right, we should position the design elements differently. So those are the things that we have learned from this project. If you look on the bottom right, it is about design, also drive different user behavior. Right? I think something quite different when I'm sharing from a government perspective is that we are facing quite a different set of issues. Right? Now, still until today, right, I think when citizens want to use or consume government digital services, a lot of them told us, based on a lot of usability testing and stuff like that, right? A lot of them, the first reaction is always just to go and Google about it, right? I think that constitutes the main group of users. I don't have the figures with me, but roughly that's the main group. There's also this second group that talks about, basically you already have this impression of like, you know, if I want to pay tax matter, I'll go IRAS. Anything to do with health, probably I will go to MOH and stuff like that, right? At the same time, what really disturbs us is really about what if there are certain tasks that has multiple touch points with multiple agencies. So for example, in this very case, you all know about the fishball stick story, right? I think those who are elder shoe holder don't hide, you know the story, right? So basically it was about, if let's say there's a fishball stick on the normal road, right? LTA should be the one and come and help to clean it. If let's say, no, actually citizens should be the one, you look at it, you clean it lah. But what I'm trying to say is that if you want to call someone, right? If it's in the drain, PUB. It is in a park, NPark. If it's in a normal, you know, on the ground and stuff like that, NEA. HDB, okay, I mean, I already said, right? If let's say it's your flat area, that is it. So when citizens have something to interact with the agencies, there will be times that there will be some ambiguity, right? Okay, then, does it then affect how are we going to bundle and offer our digital service? So in Singapore government context, actually this is one of the first, right? The people of my age, we jokingly also call it a fishball stick app, right? So what happened is that the one service app, one touch point in the front, as long as citizens want to make any report that is related to the municipal service issue, right? You don't need to care about which is the agency behind it. One touch point, everything, the routing, everything is done at the back end. It's transparent to you, right? So that is at that point of time, right, we think is a neutral. And I think based on the number we have seen so far, right, for certain use cases, this is the right way to go. So if you look at the message on the bottom right, it is about citizen-centric is the core, right? Everything, we try to wear a citizen lens, everything is outside in, right? Then we come to this quite recent use case of HDB resale portal, right? The use case was about, I think now to get the citizens who want to transact on the resale housing transaction, right? To wait for 16 weeks for the whole process to complete, I think is such a chore, it's too long drawn. So we need to try to be as much as possible to cut it down to 8 weeks, right? So how can we use certain design practice, design elements to try to realize this very practical problem that many of the Singaporeans face? So that is how we start to have this idea of, you know, in fact, the experience itself, because if you compare to the previous one, in terms of the behavior transaction with the government, this one is still a more one-off event, right? At this point of time, I look at the leaking pipe. So of course, I want to download this app or use this app to go and do certain reporting. But there will be also business cases that are more long drawn. You are, at any point of time, you are dealing with government, but you are just part of this particular journey, right? Just that in this case, it's very much still between citizen and HDB direct. So that is how we start to throw in a lot of, business process consideration also into the reworking of this HDB resale portal. So one of the very clear problem statement we have in mind is to see that how can we use design element, how can we make it as user-friendly as possible so that the vision in the future, even the house buying transactions and stuff like that, it is something belongs to the nature of, it is within your reach as a DIY kind of consumer, right? And indeed, after we redesigned that portal, in fact, before that there was a silo transaction. After that, we come up with this portal, right? The DIY rate for the house buying transaction did go up. And in fact, we never stop here. We want to see how can we continue to move on with it. So on the bottom right, my message will be citizen-centric design alone is not good enough. It's not just about the front end, right? But also the back-end processes, the business reroute need to catch up with it so that holistically we can provide that kind of experience to the citizen. Then we start to think along that line. So we have, if I do a quick recap, we have talked about data, we have talked about experiment, we have talked about, a small journey, we have talked about cross-agencies and stuff like that. So how about if I look at a more holistic kind of view, right? Talk about a young family. Oh, okay. This particular focus group session really touches me, right? So it was in 2016 when I sat in with a room of 32 parents, right, of a young family. Young family definition, our definition is basically you have a kid that is from 0 to 6 years old. So some of them, they still hold on to their baby and then come to participate, right? So I asked them about like, hey, holistically, if you pull down all the boundary of the different government agencies, you just talk about your experience, right? What are the things that you have to do as a citizen, right? When you're pregnant, when you get married when you're pregnant, and then when you even send your kid to a childcare center, so on and so forth. So throughout this journey, right, can you describe to me in words, right, what are the things that you have gone through? Are you happy? What are the pinpoints? The usual journey mapping stuff. To my surprise, right, just within a short 10 months of time spent, one mother told me that, basically for this baby, a girl, I have to interact with 9 different agencies, right, dealing with different part of the thing. In silo, I have to have 9 different silo experience working with many different agencies. So a very fundamental question is, I asked them like, hey, then how do you know that this is a process? Because 9 sounds to me is a very complicated, right? And then how do I know that which are the agencies that I need to go forward with and stuff like that? Then she told me that actually, to me, it is a pinpoint, but then to me, at least I have a very good sifu. I have a very good mentor who teach me how to do this. And the mentor is called Kiasu Parent website, which lists all these things out. Then it starts to bring us a lot of self-reflection, right? We as government, why are we not doing better, right, in that perspective? Why are we not providing validated information to guide the citizen to how to go through all these things? That was the thinking behind. Right? This is definitely a very simplified view of what we call it a journey mapping, right? I think all of you designer, you all know better than me. So if you look at it, as a young parent, to list them in parallel basically means that they are happening concurrently, right? So I have things like register for birth cert, apply for baby bonus, some of them start to apply for library card, right? And stuff like that. And, okay, I gossip a bit. Through the focus group, it was to my surprise that many of the parents, actually they start queuing for childcare center before the child was delivered. When you talk to them, these are the real things happening on the ground, right? Okay, hey, don't hide. You all know better than me. Don't hide, right? So things like that is happening almost at the same touch point. Then after that, you check for the development milestone and then the guideline, if those who need helper, right? Those are the things, right? So we do need a designer here, but it's a no-brainer thing that, just from logical sense, for those things, we know for sure that is happening down the road, right? After I gave birth today, 2 months later, I will need that service. Those things that I know for sure it will happen. Should we then start looking into some kind of the nudging service, smart recommendation service or whatever? If I know that you are here, I start to nudge you with the event that is going to happen next. That is a most logical thing to think of. What is slightly, okay, that one involves back-end data sharing and stuff like that, right? But what is the other dimension is also about, for those touch points that is happening at the same time. For example, in this representation, register for birth cert, joint baby bonus and stuff like that. Is there a way for government to function better to merge these two touch points into one? You fill up one form, you do two things. Lucky best if you don't even need to fill up this form. My info does all the dirty work for you, right? So can we do that kind of thing? So that actually drives the so-called, this thing called, we call it a journey-based approach, a service journey approach, right? That is recently one of the key topics in the government. Don't see things from government perspective. See things from what are the things happening, and the two fundamentals I mentioned. Smart recommendation, as well as try to merge the touch point. So these are the things that I have really covered. For example, engagement. Okay, so in order to come out with some of these strategies or service roadmap for the citizens, right? Then how do we engage citizens and test iteratively, streamline touch points, right? Point 3 and point 4 are some of the more back-end stuff, more technical stuff that we have to do as well. Encourage data sharing, data, right? And also we build up a whole government tech stack. So now whole government, we have an API gateway that allow the agency to exchange data. Whole government, we have a PaaS, platform as a service, to allow us to host our digital initiative. So just show you one very simple use case. I noticed that I'm left with 3 minutes. I talk too much. So things like this. In the past, you have to talk to ICA for the birth cert, that is the upper one, and you have to talk to MSF for the baby bonus, right? So would it be possible for us to combine them as one single touch point, and do all the pre-filling and stuff like that? In the past, when we look at 2 different forms for you to fill in, sometimes you know better than me, right? You fill form until you feel also sian, right? Ask you to fill 2 separate forms. Altogether, add up, you have over 70 fields. How about we add in together, and after we do all the pre-filling, you only have less than 20 fields to fill in. Those are the very basic but very real impact value kind of improvement we can make to the government digital service offering. We might not be talking about very creative, very new age kind of thing, but these are the things that through our validation with the citizens, usability testing, those are the things that citizens care the most. Right? And that is how we come up with some of these apps and stuff. I won't go into detail. So if I sum up whatever I mentioned in one slide, right, this is the one. Every point of time, we view this UX as a journey as well, even to us, right? At the beginning, we talk about it's not just UI, it's not just suibo, it's not just whether pretty or not, right? It's really about the experience, right, from the bottom. All the way until, actually, we can use data to help to guide our design decision. Then all the way to citizen-centric, don't look from government perspective, from citizen perspective. All the way to, we should view them as a journey. And that is how a lot of this journey-based approach come to. And after that, we turn back to the design community and say that, hey, which are some of the design community tools or principles that can really support us in this direction? Then we found that, hey, this aligns very well with the service design kind of literature, right? Again, you know better than me, right? So other than what the citizen is seeing, there are also behind line of interaction what the government internally should do better to co-create that kind of experience, right? So basically, I think I'll just jump straight to one use case. Something that touches my heart very much, which is happening, in fact, today is the end of the 1-week inception back in my office. So we bring in all the different ministry, right? We try to look at this thing that, as a Singaporean, we normally don't want to touch, don't want to talk about it, but now we are seriously looking at it, which is really about EOL, end of life, right? For those of you who have your relative pass away, you know that it is really under that kind of sorrow mode, right? Still, the process that you have to go through, it really makes you feel like wanting to bang on the wall. One good example would be, citizen told us that, you know what, when my relative passed away, the first thing in my mind is maybe I'll go to, I don't know, maybe police, SPF, to report the death and stuff like that. Or I will go to their website, look for information and stuff like that. But I will never thought of the most complete kind of end-of-life information can be found on the NEA website. Second, from government perspective, right, certification of cause of death and death registration are two totally different things, deal with two different agencies. Long enough, old enough, I understand. For those youngsters among you, do you understand? Right? So those are the things that we met together, right? This is something we call it a service blueprint. Then we try to find out what is the next thing to do. So anyway, this is how the final service blueprint look like. And this just cover the point of death. There's still pre-planning, there's still estate settlement. So there are a lot of work for us to do, right, to provide better services. Okay, anyway, this is all I have today. I hope you can understand better what we are doing here, right? And any advices, feel free to provide me anytime. Thank you for your time.